All right. My name is Timothy Carruthers. I've been sober for 222 days. It is Thursday, June 6th, 11:52 p.m. I don't have a check-in today. This is a little pamphlet about truthfulness, so I'm going to go through it real quick, which is funny because yesterday at our NA meeting, the just for today was honesty. So it says truthfulness during addiction. Not being truthful is part of addiction. It may be very hard to meet the demands of daily living and relationships and family and jobs and so on, and use drug and alcohol regularly. As the addiction progresses, so do the activities that are necessary to obtain, use, and recover from the drug or alcohol use. It becomes more and more difficult to keep everything going smoothly, and addicted people often find themselves doing and saying whatever is necessary to avoid problems. Truthfulness is not always a consideration. In what ways were you less than truthful during your addiction? About how much money I was spending on drugs and what types of drugs I was doing. About places I would go when I was really getting drugs. And yep, that's true. That's what I was doing. During recovery, being honest with yourself and with others during the recovery process is critically important. Sometimes being truthful is very difficult. You may not seem to be a nice person. Your therapist or group members may be unhappy with your behavior. You may be embarrassed. Other people's feelings may be hurt. I guess. I mean, truth hurts sometimes. Trying to be in recovery without being truthful will make you feel crazy. It will make everything you are doing seem like a waste of time. Has truthfulness been difficult for you in recovery? Explain. I put no, not at all. In fact, it has made it a lot easier to admit I do have a problem, and I need those people I am telling to help me. It's only hard to admit the truth about myself, but I know that the person I was is not the person I am now. Let's see. Posting my stages of recovery has beneficial to me because it gets me a lot of support. Yeah, that wasn't that bad. Actually, it took me a couple minutes. You know, I've been kind of I didn't even really want to do this video today. I was kind of thinking about like not making them anymore, but if I'm being honest, I actually feel pretty good when I do these little check-ins or go over these sheets. I still have a lot of them to do. I'll probably, when I'm done with all these videos, there'll probably be well over 100 videos for sure. And I did feel like, or I was feeling like I really wanted to drink the last couple of weeks, really. I mean, even the last couple of days was really bad. I had that thought in my mind too, like when I was leaving work, because I got off before 12, and I was like, man, I could just get a beer and crush this shit on the way home. My wife's gonna be asleep, my kids are gonna be asleep, no one's gonna know. But the reality is, like, I'll know. And you know, it's been tough. Like, being sober, me and my wife are both sober, and I did a lot of stupid shit when I was in active addiction and when I was drinking. Maybe more so when I was you know, in addiction. And I know a lot of that shit was just in my head, but you know, I did what I did, and it doesn't make it better, you know. And some people just can't let go of the fact, like, you know, if somebody did something to you and you want to get back at them and stuff, it's like being vindictive or you know, wanting vengeance. But at the end of the day, I mean, that's just really only going to hurt yourself, you know. So, like, even if somebody did something to you and you don't feel like you could let it go, and, you know, and I'm not talking about, like, you got to forgive them, but, you know, just let that shit go, you know. Like, it's I'm not saying everything, don't get me wrong. I'm a very big I wouldn't say an advocate, but like, I feel like if you did something like sexually molest a child or rape somebody, you know, that's not something that could be forgiven. I don't care if people think you're the nicest person in the world. Like, you don't deserve to be forgiven for that. In fact, I mean, I feel like if you're like a pedophile and you've repeatedly offended, I feel like you should be put to death, you know? That's like one of the few things, honestly, like I feel like that's more despicable to me than like murdering somebody. That's probably like the worst thing you could do. That, or like abusing elderly people. And even to a certain extent, because I know that animals aren't more important than people. But like, if you're like somebody that tortures animals too, like, I feel like whatever you do, you should have done to you. You know what I mean? So I've done a lot of stupid shit, you know. I've been arrested twice. Both times I've got my ass beat by the cops. The first time I was actually handcuffed when I got my ass beat by them. The second time, you know, it's actually right in front of where I'm sitting right now. I normally do my videos at Wawa, but I'm sitting in front of the house. And, you know, I got in trouble for assaulting police officers. And the guy that I actually ended up kneeing in the face, you know, he fell out. And then I got tased. I didn't have a shirt on or anything. That shit went right into my ribs. So, you know, I fell back down. They got on top of me. And then the dude that I had kneed in the face, he got back up. And he started kicking me in the face when I was on the ground and shit. And it's like, I feel like it gets to a certain point. Like, when I did that, you know, maybe not like right afterwards, but as soon as, you know, I became sober. And even the first time when I wasn't sober and shit, like, there was so much more I could have gotten arrested for, or it could have been so much worse for me that it wasn't. That, you know, the way I look at it is that I got off easy, you know? Like, if me doing that to a cop and then him getting up and kicking me in the face a couple times, if I were to hold on to that and be like, yo, that's messed up, or like the first time I got arrested, like, oh, they beat me when I was handcuffed and shit, you know, it's like, I didn't learn my lesson. If I'm just gonna blame other people or not hold myself accountable for my actions and not be like, you know what, if I wasn't tripping out on drugs the second time, or if I wasn't tripping out on drugs the first time, and never put myself in that position, I got nobody to blame but myself. So I feel like that's part of being truthful, you know, being truthful to yourself. If you do something and something happens to you, you know, like, it's one thing to, if you're messed up and, you know, you pull a gun or you pull a knife on a police officer and they shoot you and you die, you know, and, you know, that sucks. Like, you know, it sucks that happened, and maybe that wasn't maybe it wasn't a good use of force, but I mean, at the end of the day, like, and I'm not saying for everybody, I know some people get shot and it wasn't like, you know, they shouldn't have been, or they didn't have a knife, or they weren't armed. I'm just talking about people in general that do things, and, you know, a lot of people will comment on videos about that and be like, oh, well, you shouldn't have done that, or you shouldn't have done that, and then other people will say, you know, that was unjustified. It just depends on how you look at it, you know. It's just the same way with everything else. Like, whether you get assault on a police officer, if you go into somebody's house and you get shot, and, you know, even if you were fucked up and you just didn't even recognize that it wasn't your house, like, at the end of the day, like, people put themselves in those positions, you know what I mean? Like, and even if you weren't necessarily the one that like, somebody else called the cops on you or something like that, it's still like, if you weren't doing anything wrong at all and somebody came up to you and was trying to arrest you, or you were getting in trouble, then you just let it happen. And then afterwards, you know,